people have a lot of questions about Noah's flood. Could it really have happened the way the Bible says it did?
Versions put the size of the ark at 450 feet long, 150 feet wide, and 75 feet high.
In the Andes Mountains of Peru, there are these giant fossilized oysters. The problem is they're at 13,000 feet.
New evidence suggests that one flood actually refilled the Mediterranean Sea. Researchers from the University of Malta say that what was potentially the world's largest flood burst through the Strait of Gibraltar .
You'd expect to find billions of dead things buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the earth. And actually what we find are billions of dead things buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the earth.
One thing you might expect is billions of dead things buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the earth. And that's exactly what we find in the geological record.
Wouldn't we expect to find billions of dead plants and animals buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the earth? And that's exactly what we find. Billions of dead things called fossils buried in rock layers laid down by water all over the earth. Evidence number one, sea creatures buried high in mountains on the continents. That's right, marine creatures that live in the ocean are found in mountains like the Himalayas. How did they get there? Now, the Bible says that the fountains of the great deep were opened, the rain fell from heaven for 40 days and 40 nights, the waters rose 150 days until all the high hills under the whole of the heaven were covered and the mountains were covered. And we're told that all land-dwelling, air-breathing life perished except for those on the ark.
The comet passing over the Earth and impacting is what caused the Earth to crack like an egg, dropping the continental shelf and causing the fountains of the great deep to break forth. The waves of the tsunami bombarding the newly formed continents and eventually burying all life.
Once the water hit the Malta Escarpment, it created a waterfall 5 times the size of the Eiffel Tower.
Let's look at some pictures. Do you see how the rocks are folded? This happens a lot. These are called geological folds. The rock is literally folded. Using this stack of paper, we can see how that happens when rock is compressed. But here's a question. Does rock fold? No. Put it under pressure and it shatters, it breaks. These rocks had to have folded while the multiple layers of sediment were still wet and soft. The only circumstances in which this could happen would be those of Noah's flood.
In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened, and rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In verses 19 and 20 we read, "And the waters prevailed so mightily on the earth that all the high mountains under the whole heaven were covered. The waters prevailed above the mountains, covering them 15 cubits deep." And finally, there are over 500 flood legends from all over the world that are all remarkably similar to the Noah's flood account in Genesis.
Now, nobody really believes they'll ever find an ark. I mean, for obvious reasons, wood, decay, etc. Robert Ballard, who found the Titanic shipwreck in 1985, believes that there is evidence of a massive flood about 7,000 years ago, which is when the Bible situates Noah's story, and he thinks it's in the Black Sea region of Turkey.
We were astonished to learn that he believes the biblical flood could have actually happened, and he says he can find proof.
A team of Chinese and Turkish explorers claims to have found Noah's Ark high on Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey. Video provided by Noah's Ark Ministries International shows team members making their way through ice caves containing frozen wood, cut beams, rope, and other items. The Hong Kong-based team says the structure shows some evidence of ancient shipbuilding techniques. NAMI says wood samples from the site have been carbon dated to 4,800 years old, which would coincide with the biblical account of the flood.